First contact fiasco. The holographic display flickered as Commander Sarah Reeves adjusted her formal Alliance uniform for the 5th time. The diplomatic chamber aboard the UES Horizon hummed with nervous energy as the crew prepared for humanity's first official meeting with the Draconid Empire. 6 months of cautious communication had led to this moment, a face-to-face encounter that could shape humanity's future among the stars. Final preparations complete, Commander, Lieutenant Chen reported, his fingers dancing across the security console. Draconid shuttle is docking in Bay 3. Sarah nodded, her expression betraying none of the anxiety churning in her stomach. At 38, she handled first contacts before, but intelligence briefings on the Draconids gave her pause. A warrior culture with technological capabilities far beyond Earth's, they controlled 16 star systems and had subjugated 3 sentient species already. Remember, she addressed her team, we represent not just the Alliance, but all of humanity. Follow protocol, maintain composure, and for God's sake, don't stare at their crests. The distinctive hiss of the airlock signaled the arrival of their guests. Sarah straightened her back and raised her chin, projecting the quiet confidence that had earned her this command. The Draconids entered like a storm front. 7 feet tall with scaled skin that shimmered between deep crimson and obsidian, they moved with predatory grace. Bony crests adorned their heads, each uniquely patterned, a sign of status among their kind. Their eyes, vertical pupils and amber irises, swept the room with calculated precision. At their head strode a massive specimen whose scales bore intricate patterns of what Sarah recognized as battle honors. General Vexthor, Supreme Commander of the Draconid Expeditionary Force and the Empire's chosen representative. General Vexthor. Sarah stepped forward, hand extended in the universal gesture of peaceful greeting. Welcome aboard the Horizon. I am Commander Sarah Reeves of the Earth Alliance. The general's eyes narrowed, mandibles clicking in what the translation software later identified as amusement. He ignored her outstretched hand. So the rumors are true, his deep voice rumbled, the ship's translation system struggling to match his cadence. The humans send a female to negotiate with the might of the Draconid Empire. He circled Sarah slowly, examining her like a curiosity. Your species is even more fragile than our scouts reported. Sarah kept her expression neutral despite the insult. We find strength takes many forms, General. Perhaps we could begin with an exchange of diplomatic. Strength is strength. Vexthor interrupted, his tail lashing behind him. Your species has colonized only 4 worlds in a century. Mine conquered that many in a single rotation cycle. The tension in the room thickened. Lieutenant Chen's hand drifted subtly toward his sidearm before Sarah silenced him with a glance. Different priorities, General, Sarah replied evenly. We prefer cooperation over conquest. Vexthor's laugh filled the chamber, a grating sound that set teeth on edge. A philosophy of the weak. But perhaps we misjudge you. The Council insisted we explore diplomatic options before determining your species' fate. Sarah's blood ran cold at the casual threat, but years of crisis management kept her voice steady. And what options did you have in mind? The general's mandibles spread in what passed for a Draconid smile. You will come to our vessel. Alone. We shall assess your species' worth through you. Commander, Chen protested quietly. Regulations strictly prohibit. I accept, Sarah interjected, recognizing the challenge in Vexthor's posture. Alliance protocol be damned. This was no longer about protocol but survival. Vexthor seemed momentarily surprised, his crest flaring slightly before settling. Your courage is noted, if misplaced. Prepare yourself, Commander. You will face the trial of assessment. 2 hours later, Sarah stood in her quarters, reviewing every scrap of information the Alliance had gathered on Draconid culture. Their rituals were steeped in combat traditions, tests of strength and endurance that determined everything from social standing to mating rights. A soft chime announced Dr. Eliza Okafor, the ship's xenobiologist. "Commander, I've analyzed the biological data we have on the Draconids," she said without preamble. "Their musculature is approximately 3 times denser than human standard. Their reaction time is superior, and their outer dermal layers can withstand temperatures and pressures that would kill us instantly. So I'm physically outmatched in every way," Sarah concluded. "In direct combat? Absolutely." Dr. Okafor's expression softened. "But there's something else you should know. Their neural pathways show remarkable rigidity compared to human brains. They excel at learned patterns, but struggle with rapid adaptation to novel situations." Sarah absorbed this information as she checked the small neural enhancer she'd requisitioned from the medical bay. Technically against regulations, but surviving this encounter trumped following every rule. "Their society values honor above all," added Lieutenant Cato, the cultural specialist who joined them. "But their concept of honor is different. Victory by any means that showcases strength is considered honorable. Deception that demonstrates superior cunning is respected. Only surrender or showing weakness is truly dishonorable." Sarah nodded, a plan already forming. "Then I won't surrender, and I won't show weakness." The Draconid vessel dwarfed the horizon, its hull adorned with what Sarah now recognized as kill markers, one for each conquered world or significant space battle. The shuttle journey was silent, the Draconid guards regarding her with what seemed like contemptuous curiosity. The trial chamber was vast, clearly designed to intimidate. Hundreds of Draconids lined elevated platforms surrounding a central arena. The air carried strange spices and the metallic tang of what Sarah suspected was blood. Vex Thor awaited her, his battle armor gleaming under harsh lights. Behind him sat 3 elder Draconids, their scales faded to pale gray, crests elaborately decorated with precious metals and stones. "Human," one of the elders spoke, voice cracking with age, "you stand before the Council of Elders. This trial of assessment will determine whether your species is worthy of diplomatic recognition or better suited for other arrangements." Sarah kept her voice level. "And what does this trial entail?" Vex Thor stepped forward. "You will face me in unarmed combat. Your resistance will measure your species' value." "Just to clarify," Sarah said, removing her uniform jacket to reveal the standard-issue compression suit beneath, "what constitutes victory in this trial?" The general's mandibles twitched with what Sarah now recognized as amusement. "For you, survival for the traditional 3-time measures would be unprecedented. 3-time measures, about 15 Earth minutes according to her briefing, against a Draconid general with vastly superior strength, speed, and endurance." The elder raised a ceremonial staff. "The trial begins at the sound of the Gondar." As Sarah took her position opposite Vex Thor, she noticed something curious. The general's movements, while powerful, followed predictable patterns, the rigid neural pathways Dr. Okafor had mentioned. Each step, each positioning of limbs adhered to what must be traditional combat stances. The Gondar sounded, a deep, resonant tone that vibrated through Sarah's bones. Vex Thor moved with frightening speed, closing the distance between them in a blur of crimson scales. But Sarah had already activated the neural enhancer, flooding her system with heightened perception. Everything slowed in her vision. Not much, but enough. She didn't try to match his strength or speed. Instead, she did what humans had done for millennia when faced with superior predators. She adapted. The first blow should have ended the match, a strike that would have shattered her ribcage. Instead, Sarah twisted in a way the Draconid combat traditions clearly hadn't accounted for, using her smaller size and flexibility to slip beneath his guard. The chamber fell silent as she evaded not just one blow, but 3 in rapid succession. Vex Thor's expression shifted from confidence to confusion, then to the first hints of anger. His attacks became stronger, but less controlled. "Stand and fight properly," he snarled, mandibles flaring wide to display rows of serrated teeth. Sarah didn't waste breath responding. 5 minutes had passed already, a third of her goal. Her enhanced metabolism wouldn't sustain this pace for long, but it didn't need to. She just needed to survive. What she hadn't counted on was Vexithor's mounting rage. When his traditional combat forms failed, he abandoned them for raw aggression, his tail sweeping in an unexpected arc that caught Sarah's legs and sent her sprawling across the hard floor. Pain exploded through her side as she rolled, barely avoiding a follow-up strike that cracked the flooring. The crowd of draconids chittered and clicked in what her translation software fragmentarily processed as excitement and surprise. 8 minutes. Blood trickled from Sarah's split lip as she regained her footing. Vexithor circled her now, more cautious, studying her movements with newfound respect, mingled with frustration. "Your species hides its capabilities," he accused. "A deception." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Not deception, General. Adaptability." Something changed in the chamber then. A shift in energy as the watching draconids leaned forward, suddenly more interested in the human who spoke of adaptability while demonstrating it. Vexithor attacked again, but Sarah had been watching, learning his patterns even as he tried to vary them. When he lunged, she sidestepped and used his momentum against him, a classic judo move that sent the much larger alien staggering forward. The move didn't hurt him. His mass was too great, his balance too centered, but it wasn't meant to. It was meant to demonstrate. 12 minutes. Sarah's enhanced metabolism was burning out, her movements slowing as the artificial boost faded. Vexithor noticed immediately, pressing his advantage with renewed vigor. A glancing blow caught her shoulder, sending her spinning. Pain flared, but no bones broke. She'd managed to roll with the impact. "Your resistance ends, human," Vexithor growled, closing in for what he clearly intended as the finishing move. 13 minutes. Sarah backed toward the edge of the arena, seemingly cornered. The draconids watching leaned forward in anticipation of the final moment. 14 minutes. Vexithor lunged, both arms extended to grapple her in what would surely be a crushing embrace. Instead of retreating further, Sarah dropped and rolled forward, between his legs, coming up behind him as his momentum carried him forward. 15 minutes. The Gondar sounded again, its deep resonance now a sweet melody to Sarah's ears. She stood, breathing hard, body aching but unbowed as she faced the astonished Council of Elders. "The human survives the trial measure," the eldest announced, his voice carrying a note of surprise that the translation couldn't mask. Vexithor turned slowly, his amber eyes fixed on Sarah, with an unreadable expression. "Impossible," he hissed. "Your frail form should not withstand." "As I said, General," Sarah interrupted, wincing as she straightened to her full height. "Strength takes many forms." The elder draconid raised a clawed hand for silence. "The human speaks truth that our warrior fails to grasp. This trial of assessment is concluded. The human species will be granted diplomatic recognition." Sarah allowed herself a small exhale of relief, but the elder wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he continued, "by the ancient laws of the Draconid Empire, any being who survives the trial of assessment against a supreme commander is entitled to claim a boon." This wasn't in any of the briefings. Sarah's mind raced through the implications before she spoke. "I claim the right to establish a permanent diplomatic mission within Draconid space, with full protection under your laws." The chamber erupted in clicks and whistles of surprise and protest. The elder raised his staff again, striking it against the floor 3 times until silence returned. "Granted," he declared. "Though unprecedented, it is within the bounds of tradition." Vexithor's scales had darkened to deep maroon, a sign of intense emotion, according to her briefings. "Elder Krexvac, this human used deception and trickery." "She used intelligence and adaptation," Elder Krexvac corrected. "Qualities our empire would do well to recognize rather than dismiss." His ancient eyes fixed on Sarah. "Return to your vessel, Commander Reeves. Formal diplomatic channels will be established within 1 rotation cycle." As Sarah was escorted back to the shuttle, she caught fragments of conversation between draconids in the corridors. Challenge accepted. The UES Verizon's observation deck, offered an unparalleled view of the Draconid homeworld. Draconis Prime. Massive continents glowed with bioluminescent vegetation that pulsed in slow, hypnotic rhythms across the night side. Sarah stood alone before the vista, her bruised body, a constant reminder of her encounter with General Vexthor. "Couldn't sleep either, Commander." Admiral Hassan's voice came from behind. Sarah turned, offering a respectful nod. "Too much to process, sir." "Understandable." The Admiral joined her at the viewport. "The Alliance Council is in an uproar. Some calling you a hero, others questioning your sanity for accepting that trial." He studied her with shrewd eyes. "What were you thinking?" "That we couldn't afford to show weakness," Sarah replied honestly. Everything in their communications suggested they respect only strength. Refusing the challenge would have reinforced their perception of humans as unworthy adversaries, or worse, easy conquests. Admiral Hassan nodded slowly. "Your gamble paid off. We've received the formal diplomatic credentials. The Draconids have assigned a delegation to accompany us back to Earth for treaty negotiations." He handed her a data tablet. "But there's a complication." Sarah skimmed the document and felt her stomach tighten. "General Vexthor is leading their delegation. After what happened, apparently, it's a matter of honor for him now." The Admiral's expression was grim. "And there's more. According to our cultural specialists, by surviving his challenge, you've created a situation. In Draconid culture, you now hold a position of respect equal to his own. Some factions see this as evidence of human worthiness, while others view it as a stain on Vexthor's record that must be rectified. So I've made an enemy of one of the most powerful military leaders in this sector," Sarah concluded. "Wonderful." "No one said diplomacy was safe," Hassan replied with a hint of gallows humor. "Your new assignment is to serve as liaison to the Draconid delegation during our return journey and the subsequent negotiations on Earth. Keep Vexthor contained, and try not to trigger an interstellar incident again." After the Admiral left, Sarah remained on the observation deck, watching the alien world rotate slowly beneath them. Her neural enhancer had been confiscated upon her return. Unauthorized use of military technology during a diplomatic mission was still a court-martial offense, even if it had saved humanity from potential subjugation. A soft chime announced Lieutenant Cato's arrival. "Commander, I've been analyzing all available data on Draconid social structures following your trial," he said, excitement barely contained in his voice. "What you did has precedent in their mythology. A tale of an ancestral champion defeated by a physically weaker opponent who used intelligence rather than strength. The story is used to teach young Draconids about underestimating opponents." "So I'm a living legend now?" Sarah asked wryly. "More like you've inadvertently stepped into a cultural archetype," Cato explained. "Your actions resonate with them on a level deeper than just survival. There are already stories spreading through their communication channels, some painting you as an honorable opponent, others suggesting more supernatural explanations." "Supernatural." Some fringe elements are suggesting humans possess hidden abilities, evolutionary adaptations that make us more dangerous than we appear. He looked slightly embarrassed. "There's even a growing theory that humans are descended from a legendary predator species mentioned in their oldest texts." Sarah sighed. "Great, so I'm either a mythological figure or a monster." "Both carry a certain respect in Draconid culture," Cato pointed out. The next morning brought the arrival of the Draconid delegation. General Vexthor entered the diplomatic quarters with 4 junior officers and 2 civilians who were introduced as cultural advisors. His scales had returned to their normal crimson hue, but his amber eyes fixed on Sarah with unmistakable intensity. "Commander Reeves," he addressed her formally, the translation software rendering his clicking speech into measured English. "I trust your injuries have healed adequately." "They have, General. Thank you for your concern." Sarah maintained the professional courtesy that had become second nature during her diplomatic career. "We're honored to host your delegation aboard the Horizon." Vexthor's head tilted slightly. a gesture Sarah now recognized as mild skepticism. "Honor is earned, Commander, as you demonstrated in our exchange." One of the civilian Draconids stepped forward, her scales a lighter shade of copper rather than the deep crimson of the military caste. "I am Cultural Advisor Tizera," she introduced herself. "I have been assigned to help facilitate understanding between our peoples during these negotiations." Something in her manner suggested to Sarah that Tizera might be more than just a cultural advisor. The way the other Draconids deferred to her subtle movements indicated higher status than her title suggested. "Advisor Tizera, we welcome your expertise," Sarah replied. "Perhaps you could begin by explaining the expectations your delegation has for these talks." As the formal meetings began, Sarah found herself increasingly intrigued by the complex social dynamics within the Draconid group. Vex Thor clearly commanded military authority, but Tizera wielded a different kind of influence, one that occasionally checked the general's more aggressive positions. 3 days into the journey back to Earth, Sarah was summoned to a private meeting with Vex Thor. Security protocols demanded witnesses for such encounters, but the general had specifically requested solitude. "I'll be fine," she assured Lieutenant Chen, who protested vehemently. "He won't risk violating diplomatic protocols now." "With respect, Commander, you don't know that," Chen insisted. "After what happened during the trial." "That's precisely why I'll be safe," Sarah countered. "He underestimated me once. He won't make that mistake again, which means he'll be cautious." When she entered the designated meeting room, Vex Thor stood with his back to the door, gazing at the stars streaking past the viewport as the horizon traveled at FTL speeds. Without turning, he spoke. "Your species puzzles me, Commander Reeves." Sarah remained near the door, maintaining a respectful distance. "In what way, General?" He turned then, his massive form silhouetted against the starfield. "You lack natural weapons. Your skeletal structure is fragile. Your sensory organs are limited. By all objective measures, humans should be prey species, not a spacefaring civilization capable of challenging the Draconid Empire." "Perhaps your metrics for strength are incomplete," Sarah suggested. Vex Thor's mandibles clicked softly, a sound she now recognized as thoughtful consideration rather than amusement. "Perhaps. Our histories tell of similar encounters with species who initially appeared weak. Most now serve productive roles within our empire." The implicit threat wasn't lost on Sarah. "Servitude isn't an option for humanity, General." "No," he agreed, surprising her. "Your demonstration made that clear." He approached slowly, his movements deliberately non-threatening. "The Council of Elders has taken unusual interest in your species following our encounter. Some believe humans possess qualities worth cultivating rather than subjugating." "A wise perspective," Sarah offered neutrally. "Is it?" Vex Thor stopped before her, close enough that she could see the intricate patterns etched into his chest plate, battle honors earned over centuries of warfare. "Or is it simply delaying inevitable conflict? Your alliance expands, as does our empire. Territories will eventually overlap. Resources will be contested." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Conflict isn't inevitable between intelligent species, General. Cooperation often yields better outcomes for all involved. A theory I intend to test." Vex Thor reached into a compartment in his armor and withdrew a small metallic object shaped like a stylized claw. "I formally challenge you to the rite of crave." Sarah's mind raced through her briefings on Draconid customs. The rite of crave wasn't mentioned in any alliance reports. "I'm unfamiliar with this ritual, General." "Few outsiders are," he acknowledged. "It is not a test of physical combat like the trial of assessment. The rite of crave tests strategic thinking, decision-making under pressure, and the ability to command loyalties. It is how we determine who is worthy to lead battle fleets." Sarah studied the metallic claw in his outstretched hand. "And if I refuse?" "You would retain the respect earned during the trial, but it would be noted that humans excel at physical adaptation, but lack the mental acuity for true partnership with the Empire." His mandibles clicked once. It would affect the terms offered during negotiations. Blackmail, thinly veiled. Sarah weighed her options quickly. And if I accept and succeed, you would earn the right to speak directly to the imperial throne, a privilege no non-draconid has ever been granted. His amber eyes narrowed. You would influence the future relationship between our peoples at the highest level. Sarah reached out slowly and took the metal claw, its weight surprisingly heavy in her palm. I accept your challenge, General. When does this right begin? It already has. Vexthor's mandibles spread in what Sarah now recognized as the draconid equivalent of a smile. The moment you took the token of challenge, you entered the first phase. You have until we reach your homeworld to decipher its meaning and prepare your response. After Vexthor departed, Sarah immediately called an emergency meeting with her cultural specialists. Lieutenant Keto examined the metallic claw with growing concern. Commander, this is unprecedented, he whispered, scanning the object with trembling hands. The rite of crave is mentioned only in passing in the oldest texts we've translated. It's reserved for potential fleet commanders, those who might one day lead armadas. Dr. Okafor frowned. Why would he issue such a challenge to an outsider? Because he's testing more than just me, Sarah realized aloud. He's testing all of humanity through me. If I fail, it reinforces his belief that we're unworthy adversaries. If I succeed, she trailed off, considering the implications. If you succeed, you threaten his position. Lieutenant Chen finished for her. You'd be the first non-draconid to complete their highest military challenge. Sarah turned the claw over in her hands, noting intricate symbols etched along its surface. There's something else at play here. Vexthor doesn't strike me as someone who takes unnecessary risks. He must believe I'll fail. Or he's under pressure from factions within the Empire, suggested Admiral Hassan, who had joined them midway through the discussion. Our intelligence suggests the draconid military is divided on how to approach humanity. Some advocate immediate conquest, others favor alliance. Vexthor may be trying to resolve this debate definitively through your challenge. Sarah studied the metallic claw in his outstretched hand. And if I refuse, you would retain the respect earned during the trial. But it would be noted that humans excel at physical adaptation, but lack the mental acuity for true partnership with the Empire. His mandibles clicked once. It would affect the terms offered during negotiations. Blackmail, thinly veiled. Sarah weighed her options quickly. And if I accept and succeed, you would earn the right to speak directly to the imperial throne, a privilege no non-draconid has ever been granted. His amber eyes narrowed. You would influence the future relationship between our peoples at the highest level. Sarah reached out slowly and took the metal claw, its weight surprisingly heavy in her palm. I accept your challenge, General. When does this right begin? It already has. Vexthor's mandibles spread in what Sarah now recognized as the draconid equivalent of a smile. The moment you took the token of challenge, you entered the first phase. You have until we reach your homeworld to decipher its meaning and prepare your response. After Vexthor departed, Sarah immediately called an emergency meeting with her cultural specialists. Lieutenant Keto examined the metallic claw with growing concern. Commander, this is unprecedented, he whispered, scanning the object with trembling hands. The rite of crave is mentioned only in passing in the oldest texts we've translated. It's reserved for potential fleet commanders, those who might one day lead armadas. Dr. Okafor frowned. Why would he issue such a challenge to an outsider? Because he's testing more than just me, Sarah realized aloud. He's testing all of humanity through me. If I fail, it reinforces his belief that we're unworthy adversaries. If I succeed, she trailed off, considering the implications. If you succeed, you threaten his position. Lieutenant Chen finished for her. You'd be the first non-draconid to complete their highest military challenge. Sarah turned the claw over in her hands, noting intricate symbols etched along its surface. There's something else at play here. Vexthor doesn't strike me as someone who takes unnecessary risks. He must believe I'll fail. Or he's under pressure from factions within the Empire, suggested Admiral Hassan, who had joined them midway through the discussion. Our intelligence suggests the Draconid military is divided on how to approach humanity. Some advocate immediate conquest, others favor alliance. Vexthor may be trying to resolve this debate definitively through your challenge. Sarah set the metal claw on the table. Whatever his motivation, I've accepted the challenge. Now we need to figure out what this thing means. For the next 3 days, Sarah barely slept as she worked with her team to decipher the token of challenge. They discovered that the symbols etched into the claw corresponded to ancient Draconid battle formations, each representing different approaches to conflict resolution. It's not just a symbol, Cato explained on the 4th day, excitement lighting his features. It's a key encoded with strategic philosophies. The challenge isn't to understand what it is, but to demonstrate that you understand when to apply each strategy. And how exactly am I supposed to demonstrate that? Sarah asked. Her answer came the following day when Advisor Tizera requested a private meeting. The female Draconid's copper scales shimmered as she entered Sarah's quarters, her movements more fluid than the military rigidity of Vexthor's bearing. Commander, Tizera began without preamble, I understand the General has issued you the right of crevice challenge. Sarah maintained a neutral expression. That's correct. You should know that not all Draconids support this test. Tizera's vertical pupils dilated slightly, a sign of emotional intensity according to Sarah's briefings. There are those among us who believe the future lies in cooperation rather than conquest, including yourself. Sarah probed carefully. I serve the Empire in my own way, Tizera replied diplomatically. But I will tell you this. The token you received contains 5 battle philosophies. Each will be tested through staged scenarios during your journey to Earth. Some will be obvious, others subtle. Your responses will be evaluated by the General and transmitted back to the Council of Elders. Sarah considered this new information. Why are you telling me this, Advisor Tizera? Because balance maintains the health of any ecosystem, she answered cryptically. One predator should not consume all others, or it too will eventually starve. After Tizera left, Sarah immediately recognized the first test when a malfunction in the ship's environmental systems caused the diplomatic quarters to overheat to temperatures comfortable for Draconids, but nearly unbearable for humans. Rather than complaining or retreating to cooler sections of the ship, Sarah simply adapted, removing her jacket, increasing her water intake, and continuing discussions as though nothing were amiss. The second test came during a cultural exchange dinner when the Draconid chef accidentally prepared all foods with compounds mildly toxic to humans. Sarah recognized the distinctive odor from her xenobiology briefings, and rather than causing offense by refusing, simply claimed a previously undisclosed religious observance requiring fasting on that particular day. By the 8th day of their journey to Earth, Sarah had identified and navigated 3 of what she believed were the 5 challenges encoded in the token. Each time, she had demonstrated a different strategic approach: adaptation, avoidance, and misdirection. During a scheduled tour of the Horizon's engineering section, the 4th test emerged when a containment field failed, exposing the area to harmful radiation. While her human crew members evacuated, Sarah remained long enough to help a seemingly incapacitated junior Draconid officer reach safety, despite the risk to herself. Self-sacrifice for tactical advantage. Vexthor commented later as Sarah received treatment for mild radiation exposure. An interesting choice. Not every victory requires an enemy's defeat, General, she replied, wincing as the medical nanites repaired cellular damage. Sometimes preserving alliance potential outweighs personal safety. A perspective unique to prey species, he observed, though his tone lacked its earlier dismissiveness. As they approached Earth, Sarah knew the final test must be imminent. She had studied the token obsessively, believing the 5th battle philosophy encoded within represented something called the Gambit of Ascension, a high-risk, high-reward strategy where vulnerability was deliberately exposed to draw opponents into a disadvantageous position. The opportunity came during final approach to Earth orbit. A supposed navigational error brought the horizon dangerously close to a defense satellite cluster. Alliance protocols demanded immediate defensive measures, but Sarah recognized the manufactured crisis for what it was, the final test. Instead of raising shields or taking evasive action, she ordered all defensive systems powered down and opened a direct channel to Vexthor's quarters. "General," she announced calmly, "I believe this concludes the rite of crave. The fifth philosophy, exposing vulnerability to reveal true strength." For several tense moments, the Draconid delegation remained silent. Then, to the surprise of the bridge crew, General Vexthor's deep laughter echoed through the communication system. "Well interpreted, Commander," he acknowledged. "Few candidates recognize the gambit of ascension for what it truly represents, the understanding that sometimes apparent weakness conceals one's greatest strength." As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Sarah felt a complex mix of emotions. She had seemingly passed Vexthor's challenge. But the true test, building a lasting peace between humanity and the Draconid Empire, was just beginning. And based on the calculating look Advisor Tizera exchanged with the general, Sarah suspected that the political complexities within the Empire would make the rite of crave seem simple by comparison. Battle of wits and will. Earth's glittering cities spread across the night side of the planet as the UES horizon achieved standard orbit. Through the viewport of the diplomatic quarters, General Vexthor observed the homeworld of humanity with unreadable amber eyes. "Your world appears fragile," he commented as Sarah joined him. "Appearances can be deceiving," she replied mildly. "As you've recently discovered." The general's scales rippled in what Sarah now recognized as grudging amusement. "Indeed, your successful completion of the rite of crave has been transmitted to the imperial throne. The Emperor wishes to speak with you directly upon our return." Sarah kept her expression neutral despite her surprise. "I thought that privilege would be granted after formal negotiations were complete." "Circumstances have evolved," Vexthor said cryptically. "The Emperor is intrigued by your species." Before Sarah could press for details, Admiral Hassan's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Commander Reeves, please report to the bridge. We have a situation." When Sarah arrived on the bridge, tensions were palpable. Lieutenant Chen stood rigid at the tactical station, his gaze fixed on a readout displaying a Draconid warship that had just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. "The Draconid vessel is requesting permission to join their delegation," Admiral Hassan explained tersely. "They claim to be carrying ceremonial observers for the treaty negotiations." Sarah recognized the ploy immediately. "They're testing our response. If we appear threatened by a single warship, it reveals weakness. If we allow it without question, we appear naive." "What do you recommend?" Hassan asked. Sarah considered the token of challenge she still carried. "Grant permission, but with conditions. Request they maintain position at the L5 Lagrange point and allow a full security inspection before any additional personnel transfer to Earth." When Sarah delivered these terms to the Draconid delegation, she caught a subtle exchange of glances between Vexthor and Tizera. The general's mandibles clicked once before he responded. "Your terms are acceptable, Commander. Though I should warn you, the ceremonial observers include members of the Imperial Blood Guard. They are unaccustomed to inspections. Then this will be an educational experience for everyone involved." Sarah replied smoothly. 2 days later, as final preparations for the Draconid delegation's descent to Earth neared completion, Admiral Hassan summoned Sarah to a private briefing. His expression was grave as he activated a secure holographic display. "Our intelligence assets have intercepted concerning communications from within the Draconid Empire," he began without preamble. "It appears General Vexthor's decision to offer diplomatic relations rather than conquest has sparked controversy among the military caste." The display showed intercepted message fragments, partially translated from Draconid communication protocols. Sarah scanned them quickly, her concern growing. These suggest there's a faction that views Vexthor's approach as weakness, she noted. They're positioning to challenge his authority if these negotiations succeed. Exactly, Hassan confirmed. You may have impressed the general and the emperor, but significant portions of their military remain convinced that humanity should be subjugated, not treated as equals. Sarah considered the implications. This explains the ceremonial observers. They're not just observers, they're enforcers making sure Vexthor doesn't concede too much during negotiations. Or they're a failsafe, Hassan suggested grimly. If negotiations appear too favorable to humanity, they might have orders to ensure the talks fail, catastrophically. We need to alert Vexthor, Sarah decided, if he's unaware of this faction's strength. He's a Draconid general, Hassan interrupted. He's aware. The question is whether he's aligned with them or opposed to them. Sarah recalled the subtle interactions she'd observed between Vexthor and Tizura. I believe he's navigating his own political minefield, sir, and I think Advisor Tizura is more than she appears. Agreed, Hassan nodded. Our xenopolitical analysts suspect she's connected to the imperial court directly, possibly related to the emperor himself. Her presence here suggests competing interests within their government. A familiar situation, Sarah observed with a hint of irony. Indeed, not all human factions are thrilled about potential alliance with the Draconids either. Hassan deactivated the display. The Alliance Council has granted you extraordinary latitude during these negotiations, Commander. Your handling of the Draconids so far has earned you that trust. Don't squander it. The Earth delegation awaited the Draconids' arrival at the Global Diplomatic Center in Geneva, a crystalline structure designed specifically for extraterrestrial diplomatic engagements. Despite the outward appearance of ceremony and welcome, Sarah noted the discreet security measures implemented throughout the complex. Energy-dampening fields, tactical response teams disguised as support staff, and quantum disruption barriers to prevent unauthorized communications. Vexthor descended from the shuttle first, resplendent in ceremonial armor that accentuated his imposing physique. Behind him came Tizura and the 4 junior officers, followed by 3 imposing Draconids whose obsidian scales and ornate armor marked them as the Imperial Blood Guard. General Vexthor, Sarah stepped forward in formal diplomatic greeting. On behalf of the Earth Alliance, I welcome you and your delegation to Earth. The general inclined his head slightly. Commander Reeves, your world's atmosphere is humid. Despite the translator's neutral rendering, Sarah detected a note of discomfort. We've adjusted the environmental controls in your quarters to match Draconid preferences, she assured him. If you require additional modifications, please inform our staff. As the delegation moved toward the diplomatic complex, Sarah noticed one of the Blood Guard scanning the surroundings with particular intensity. His hand never strayed far from an ornate weapon at his hip, not the ceremonial blade carried by the others, but what appeared to be an energy weapon disguised as a traditional implement. General, Sarah murmured as they walked, I should inform you that all weapons, including ceremonial ones, must be surrendered before entering the negotiation chambers. Alliance protocols. Vexthor's mandibles clicked softly.